What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another great episode of DJ Reacts. We got a little bit of an in-depth video right here, but this is just the precursor to what's coming after this. I told you all, if you wanted me to go into depth about the Illuminati and the real people and who they are, and I'm talking like Illuminati, the Jesuits, people from the Vatican, these things, I will go in depth. I will do a video in depth if any of you wanted that. And one of you said, I want that. I want to know that. So I'm going to do that. But this video is not that. I said it will be after this one because I already had a bunch of stuff queued up for this one. So we're going to get into this. Excuse me. Yeah, this is gonna probably hurt some feelings. This is gonna make some people think the other way, but we gotta go with what we know. That's the whole thing. That's the whole purpose here. We know that we are on this specific path, and things are going to always try to knock us off of that path, call us stupid, say we don't know what we're talking about, blah blah blah. Well, nobody can tell me that because I'm an expert in at least 4 fields, and none of them have to do with anything I'm talking about, but the accumulation of my expertise and my experiences is what I show on here. So we're gonna get into it. As always, as a disclaimer, don't believe anything that I say, don't believe anything that you see on these videos. Do your own research. That is the biggest rule. Do your own research. But you know what? You're not going through this alone. We're all in this together because we all are one. And think about it. If we're all one, and so then one of us starts taking up this research seriously, and we start to, truly understand what's going on, it's going to spread out to the rest of us. It'll spread slowly, and you might be one of the first, you might be one of the 100th, you might be one of the millionth to get it. But it's spreading out there because we are all one. That is the entire reason that 15% of the population right now whose vibrations have raised is carrying along the other 85%. So I just want you to think about that. Let that marinate a bit because that's the truth. So we're going to get onto it, get into it. But I just wanted to preface that and let you guys know what we're getting into. This is going to be a little bit different. I wouldn't say too different, but I'm just going to get into it. I know you guys don't like to hear me talk too much, but we're just going to get into it and see what we can see. And in the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of you who are commenting, who are subscribing. The main thing that my mission is to spread awareness, because that's our largest, that's our most powerful power, is awareness. And so when we can spread that awareness, and when you guys run the numbers up on the algorithm by liking and subscribing, that puts this out there to more people. And guess what happens then? These people get exposed to what we already know. And so you're taking 15%, adding another, few thousand people to that. And now it's going up to 16, 17%. Well, guess what? We are helping the entire global population raise their frequencies because we are all one. I had a conversation with a guy the other day, and he was like, do you really think we're all one? And I was like, yeah, why would we not be all one? And he was like, well, there's just so many differences. And I said, well, what are the differences? And he was like, well, you're mixed, but you're from Europe, but you've got all these different, you were raised very Asian, but then you came to the US and you were raised very preppy and then very hip hop, like we've got these differences. And I said, yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. You can't find that all over the world. And so he said, well, I think there's more to it than that. I think it goes more in depth than, you know, than that. I think it goes down to our blood. And I said, you know what? Blood plays a very vital many things. I said, but what you're saying sounds like it's really stupid. I said, because I said I was pre-med at one time, right? I said, now, when I was in my studies, I never learned the difference between, you know, black person, a white person, an Asian person, or a native person, or a Hispanic person, or a Norwegian person. I didn't learn the differences between these people and how things affect their body. I learned how this affects the human body. So we are all one. Granted, there are genetic predispositions in all of these things, right? And I'm going to go ahead and send this out there. Hopefully, I don't get banned. But so if you want to speak about natives, if you want to talk about the natives, like in Alaska, in the U.S., which you call Native Americans or Indians, or in Alaska, you would call the Inuit. So they're very similar to Mexicans and Hispanics. And guess what? Their livers cannot metabolize alcohol as fast or as thoroughly as everyone else's. That's why it takes very little for them to get smashed. You know? It's not within their culture. It was never something that was a part of their culture. And now when they do it, their livers can't metabolize it fast enough. So they just get hammered, off of a little bit. It's like they're lightweight all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a big business in that. So you have people that, especially in Alaska, you have people, that are in Anchorage that'll hop on, one of these little boats, and they'll take bottles of liquor. And the rule of thumb is the farther up you go, the more money you get for that bottle. So you spend, $20, $30, $40 on a bottle. By the time you get, 30 miles up, you're getting $200-$300 for that bottle. But it's not a good thing. Because like I said, their livers cannot metabolize alcohol like the rest of the population. So what happens is they get inundated with being drunk all the time, especially these long, cold winters that they've got. Extremely long, cold winters. If you're not out there hunting and trapping and try to feed for your family, then you're out there just drinking and getting schmammered. I've been there. I've gotten schmammered for a long time. But my liver can metabolize it a lot faster. So I don't get tore up like they do on as little as they do. But like I said, it's not native to their culture. So that's why they have to go through third party bringing it up river to get it. That's just one example I wanted to put out there. So yeah, you're not. I just thought it was a preposterous statement, because it's like, okay, so two people have the flu. One's African, one is a Spaniard. Do we treat them differently? No, of course not. Out of your fucking mind? What kind of racist shit is that? No, we're all a part of the human family. So we treat them equally. So if we're trying to get rid of something, we don't study a specific people. Now, unless a specific people like Dogon tribe or some of these ancient villages that have people that to where they just have not genetically changed for thousands of years, that is a scientist gold mine, right? To find those people, that's a gold mine. Because you're not going to find that very often. They find it. It's a gold mine. But aside from that, even with that, you're not going to find that discretion in their DNA. You're not going to have to, know who you're working on. It doesn't matter. It all works the same. And when we all get this information passed to us, it doesn't matter who or what we are. It's just information. It's what you do with it makes that count. Now, as I'm sure you can see, this is Bashar here, Daryl Anka, and I don't know if he's a snake oil salesman. I don't know what his deal is, but the one thing I do know, people critique me for liking his message. Well, you know what? His message is what I personally downloaded. So law. Pure, simple, universal law. Now, I've read people's comments that say, well, what's the difference between what he's doing and schizophrenic? Big difference, major difference. For one, the waves aren't read the same way. So when you're talking what he does, you're talking gamma waves. When you're talking schizophrenia, gamma waves are taken out. And the personality doesn't exist anymore. A personality exists, but the native personality ceases to exist within that gray matter. That's a big difference. So I just wanted to preface this before I play this because it's very interesting. You guys can say what you want, unless I see something. And I've said this before, he could be a snake oil salesman, he could be many things, but the one thing that I do know is he's talking about universal law that I know in my soul is right because I've experienced it. I can remember. I'm not one of these people that forgot why I came here, when I came here, or my mission here. I forgot for a few years when I was like 3 and 4. But after that, I knew. So, unless someone can tell me differently, then I'm all for it. So let's see what we can see.
You did a EEG scan of your brain
while I was channeling.
While you were channeling.
Yes.
And there were different states of
delta
brainwaves. Can you describe a little bit about what those different states are?
I mean, that's what we were really excited about doing that because it's really not so much about trying to prove that Bashar is real, because I can't do that.
Right.
What we did demonstrate scientifically, I think probably for the first time that I'm aware of, is that the channeling state is a true altered state. And so the EEG readouts were definitely demonstrating that a lot of unusual things are going on in the brain when people are in a channeling state. And channeling is a natural thing all of us do.
Right.
Whenever anyone is truly following their passion, they're not experiencing the passage of time, you're probably in a channeling state, which is, as we discovered in the EEG test, between 4.
I just want to pause right there and speak on this. So, I don't channel intentionally, but I can tell you that when I'm working with people or when I'm speaking with people and they ask me specific questions, it's like another person is speaking through me because this knowledge isn't anything that I had in my head. It's just flowing through. way it should. It's just coming out. And I know how weird that sounds to me, I know. And it's never something I've ever admitted. But yeah, I'm talking about certain things, and I'm not channeling anything, I'm not doing anything. It's like somebody will ask me something, and it will just hit and resonate. And the answers will just flow through, down in my soul and then come out of my mouth if I want it to. And I have yet to be able to explain that, other than the fact that getting these downloads from wherever, but it's all good. It's nothing bad. So let's continue.
40 and 100 cycles per second in the brain, which is a state called gamma. And in that state, some unusual things are happening. One of the most unusual we found was when people are growing up and their brain starts absorbing information. It goes to a certain frequency point and it generally stops. And that's called the set point in the brain. And what that means is your brain is kind of like taking snapshots of reality at a certain rate. Now, mine in general was 9 hertz, 9 frames per second, which is a typical amount of, rate of absorption. That set point is, according to our science and everything we know about brain science up to this point, is not supposed to change over the course of your lifetime. And certainly, if it ever did change, it would have to take place over a long period of time or be instigated by some sort of brain trauma or some major thing that would happen to the brain to change that set point.
Right.
But what we discovered is that when I go into the channeling state, it changes in seconds and goes from 9 to 10 to 11 to wherever it needs to go to represent whatever it is he's either doing in terms of sending information through or listening to the information someone else is asking him about. And it actually goes higher when he's listening than it does when he's talking.
Interesting.
And so one of the things the technician
Right.
Took from that was that there is a higher focus, a higher concentration of attention given to when he is actually listening to someone talk, because he's assessing all of the things that are going on in that statement in terms of their emotional level, in terms of the real intention behind asking the question, and many other aspects. So there was that. One other unusual thing was there is a portion of everyone's brain that is responsible for processing your personality so that you can express yourself as the person you are. During the channeling state, that portion of the brain shuts off completely.
Oh.
So who's talking?
Right. So your personality's gone.
My personality is gone during that state. And there are many other things that are happening, including a very heightened sense of connectivity. See, a lot of people think it's actually a trance state. It's not a trance state.
Right.
It's a state of heightened connection. So that more associations are being made, more connections are being made faster. And so there is a higher rate of processing information, organizing information, and delivering information from a very, very precise, high level frequency. So many different things we were able to demonstrate are happening in the channeling state that are highly unusual.
Is this something you're going to continue to research a bit
Yeah,
more?
we will.
Further?
We'll look for other ways to, get that data.
Nice.
As well.
Yeah, looking forward to validating this special.
Yeah, well, again, as a state of being is what we're trying to show, and again, that everyone has the ability to do this, because if they can simply allow themselves to get into that state, it brings on a lot more creativity, a different perspective of things from a higher level, and it's very conducive to problem solving in a lot of different ways. I did a channeling with my head wired to a brainwave machine, EEG machine. And there were many unusual things that happened in my brain during that channeling state. One of the most profound things is that there are certain centers of the brain that are responsible supposedly for processing the personality. During the channeling state, my personality center is shut off. So if I'm not there, who's speaking?
Performers. So here we have a picture of what disconnects when Daryl begins to channel. And you can see the areas in blue, the functional Brodmann areas we call them, that are not used when he is channeling. And it appears that he disconnects from his personal sense of self. He disconnects from the experience of pain. Now, what increases when he begins to channel is, first of all, his processing speed. And processing speed is a very interesting phenomenon, because what happens is it develops early in childhood. And by about the age of 5 or 6, and certainly 9 or 10 maximum, we reach a set point. And this set point doesn't usually change during the lifetime. And in Daryl's case, it actually went up when he began to channel. And it increased when he listened. The actual frequency of the processing speed was tuned to an exact frequency all over the brain. Now we're looking at Daryl's anterior cingulate while he's channeling. And you can see the red areas there. There is actually gamma frequencies that I found in his anterior cingulate. And gamma frequencies relate to the higher mind. And gamma frequencies are often found in Tibetan monks and people who meditate a lot. To summarize sort of what I found here in Daryl's brain in comparison with the channeling state, he starts from a very stable resting state. And then he experiences changes that statistically less than 1% of the population would experience in the same way. He increases his processing speed. He tunes it exquisitely to one frequency all over the brain. And then he's able to create a resonant holding environment for the peak performance or the channeling to happen. He pumps energy into the right frontal cortex and the right auditory cortex so that he can empathize and hear very, very clearly. And because of the gamma frequencies in the anterior cingulate, he can shift gears. He'll be able to shift gears and navigate cognition, thoughts, and emotions very, very flexibly. And he'll be able to interpret from a higher perspective, from a more evolved place in his mind, much like from the highest mountaintop.
So what do you guys think of that? That's a new way to really, truly
I did a channeling with
think about things and decipher them. So I don't want you to get stuck on differences or even commonalities. I want you to be stuck on what resonates within you, right? Because for years I thought he was a snake oil salesman. But the one thing I knew, my soul, not just from my travel reading, but in my soul, I said, this man is discussing universal law. And he's discussing universal laws that most people do not know about, that are not written in any books, things that I have experienced. So I don't want to sit here and say, I'm for him, but I'm definitely not going to sit here and say, oh, it's BS and I'm against him. Because there's so much there. There's so much there. And the level of intellect has to be spread across, multiple entities to be channeled down into him, and for him to be able to speak it to where we understand it. So I give him that credit. I have no issue with it. If you want to call me crazy or, believing in a snake oil salesman, call it what you will, but you'll be on the wrong side when things come to pass. You'll be on the side of, oh, he was never anything, even though science proved it, he said it, you still are going to be on the outside of that. That's not a place that I would want to be. Not at all. And I don't base my life off of this. These are things that I knew before I even knew who he was. You know, I understood universal law. I understood the Akashic records. I understood, our reincarnation and the days that it takes and what we're able to do, not do. And coming across him was like a breath of fresh air for me. So I hope you all get the chance to experience that. And like I said, I'm not condoning any of this. I'm just saying if it resonates with you, like it resonated with me, then you have much more of a valid reason to dig deep, try to understand what's going on.
It's really not so much about trying to prove that Bashar is real, because I can't do that.
Right.
What we did demonstrate scientifically, I think probably for the first time that I'm aware of, is that the channeling state is a true altered state. And so the EEG readouts were definitely demonstrating that.
Let me pause. I know I've already played this. I want to get it. I want to hit it with another punch, just to get anyone who's chiming in now to just really comprehend this.
A lot of unusual things are going on in the brain when people are in a channeling state. And channeling is a natural thing all of us do.
Right.
Whenever anyone is truly following their passion, they're not experiencing the passage of time, you're probably in a channeling state, which.
See, that's the thing. It's so simple. Whenever one of us are in a channeling state, expressing our passion, we are not experiencing the process of time. Think about when you do something that you have more passion about than anything else. Time ceases to exist. You can either move more slowly, but either way, you're doing something that is within your passion. It's the time. It ceases to exist. It can go fast. You ever do something really, really well, a lot of fun at it because it's your passion, and then you're like, wow, it's been 10 hours. I could have sworn I've only been doing this for 2 hours. But because it's my passion and I've been so ingrained to love it and enjoy this, time ceases to exist. But opposite is true. Have you ever done something that you just could not stand doing? It's punishment, whether it's something that you just did not vibrate with, and you're like, oh, this just sucks, you know? And then you're like, okay, it seems like I've been doing this for 10 hours and it's only been 30 minutes. It's equal, both sides. I just wanted to put that out there, just in case someone out there is like, oh, well, you didn't say this and he said that and blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to put that out there.
Which is, as we discovered in the EEG test, between 40 and 100 cycles per second in the brain, which is a state called gamma. And in that state, some unusual things are happening. One of the most unusual we found was when people are growing up and their brain starts absorbing information, it goes to a certain frequency point and it generally stops. And that's called the set point in the brain. And what that means is your brain is kind of like taking snapshots of reality at a certain rate. Now, mine in general was 9 hertz, 9 frames per second, which is a typical amount of, rate of absorption. That set point is, according to our science and everything we know about brain science up to this point, is not supposed to change over the course of your lifetime. And certainly, if it ever did change, it would have to take place over a long period of time, or be instigated by some sort of brain trauma or some major thing that would happen to the brain to change that set point.
Right.
But what we discovered is that when I go into the channeling state, it changes in seconds and goes from 9 to 10 to 11 to wherever it needs to go to represent whatever it is he's either doing in terms of sending information through or listening to the information someone else is asking him about.
So, real quick, sorry to interrupt again. This is what I say when I talk about that blast off. I meditate in the sun primarily. I can meditate anywhere, but when I meditate in the sun, I have this fiery experience and I blast off. It doesn't even take, it usually doesn't even take a minute, but it might take a minute time. It's fast because you're speaking to one of the most conscious watchers over our planet. You're sitting there sucking in vitamin it's provided to you. Go into this trance state. Everything seems to just. So, if when you first learn to meditate, you'll be like, I can't do it. I'm too, I'm all over the place. I can't calm myself down. But when you do it in front of the sun, it's like I didn't even need to calm myself down. It's just like I'm thinking and poof, I'm gone. Gone. It's a beautiful thing, and that's how it should be. Now, the challenge is do that without the sun. That's the challenge.
And it actually goes higher when he's listening than it does when he's talking.
Oh, interesting.
And so one of the things the technician
Right.
took from that was that there is a higher focus, a higher concentration of attention given to when he is actually listening to someone talk, because he's assessing all of the things that are going on in that statement in terms of their emotional level, in terms of the real intention behind asking the question, and many other aspects. So there was that.
Hear that? The intention behind asking the question. This is something I always stress. Intent is everything. Intent is absolutely everything. So, before you ever do anything, your intent shows. People like me, we can see it. And if we can't see it, we can feel it. So by the time that crap comes out of your mouth, we know whether it's real or not. It's a beautiful gift to have. It's a gift that all of you have. You just have to tune into it. I've never really stated about the gifts that I have, and I'm not going to go into depth about them. That's something that everybody has. Just give yourself a second to think. People are too much in a rush to want to hop on this wagon or hop on this trail and talk about this, but you know what, just think about it for a second. That's all it takes. Do that, know exactly what it is.
One other unusual thing was there is a portion of everyone's brain that is responsible for processing your personality so that you can express yourself as the person you are. During the channeling state, that portion of the brain shuts off completely.
Oh.
So who's talking?
Right. So your personality's gone.
My personality is gone during that state.
And if you remember, sorry for pausing again, but if you remember, I said this earlier. I said people would ask the difference. What's the difference between what he's doing and a schizophrenic? The difference is personality. You're talking gamma waves versus gray matter or lighting up. And what he's doing, personality, goes somewhere else. Schizophrenic. Not only is the personality there, but it's so flooded, multiple personalities. However many personalities that person has. That's the difference between channeling and an actual mental disorder. See it. Gee, you can see it measuring brainwave patterns. Just want you guys to keep this in the frontal lobe while you're listening. So.
And there are many other things that are happening, including a very heightened sense of connectivity. See, a lot of people think it's actually a trance state. It's not a trance state.
Right.
It's a state of heightened connection. So that more associations are being made, more connections are being made faster. And so there is a higher rate of processing information, organizing information, and delivering information.
So he processes information extraordinarily fast. Extraordinarily fast. If I thought it was a hoax, if I thought it was snake oil, I would not say anything about it. And even if 90% of what he said was snake oil, that 10% of universal law that he knows to the T can express and hits people, that's worth it, in my opinion. But it's not like that. So, yeah. You have to understand that the universal laws that he talks about, they come to him so fast. And if you ever watch, his eyes are always closed. Always closed. And yet you can ask him the most offhand question, and he not only answers it because they are a collective speaking through him. It's not just one person named Bashar. Bashar is the name of a person that's within a collective. So it's a collective speaking through him. Now, if I felt, you know in your soul, you know when something's off. I've yet to find anything off. And I might get ridiculed for this. I might get a lot of BS, I've gotten it from one guy on TikTok. Oh, you've got Bashar on your page, so that says everything what you're about. Oh, you know what? Considering you study esotericism, you should really take a look to this, because you're studying physical only. You're reading books, you're arguing over religion, you're doing all of these level 1 dimension stuff, doing all of these things that are so below he's speaking of, that I don't even get mad. I don't expect you to understand. If this is where you're at in your, don't expect you to understand. Call me what you want, say what you will. That's just that.
From a very, very precise high level frequency. So many different things we were able to demonstrate are happening in the channeling state that are highly unusual.
Is this something you're going to continue to research a bit
Yeah,
more?
we will.
Further?
We'll look for other ways to get that data.
Nice.
As well.
Yeah, looking forward to validating this special.
Yeah, well, again, as a state of being is what we're trying to show, and again, that everyone has the ability to do this, because if they can simply allow themselves to get into that state, it brings on a lot more creativity, a different perspective of things from a higher level, and it's very conducive to problem solving in a lot of different ways. It's really...
So one thing I will say is I've known a lot of people, even way before me. I was introduced to Bashar by other people that were like-minded souls, I would say. Not like in every way, but one thing is the creativity. Now, I'm not, you know, I'm an architect, scientist, I'm an expert, but that's within my field. But the people that can just, and just design just beautiful things, they put their whole soul into it. You can feel it when people put their soul into these things, like paintings. It's the same with food. You can tell when people have put love into that food because you eat it. It's so good. You feel that love, and it's good for you. So that's how I came across him. And I'm not trying to be like a fanboy or anything like that. And I'm not trying to lead anyone towards him that shouldn't be. But the things that he said that resonated with me for decades. And it wasn't until him that I actually not only felt, saw how accurate he was on everything. And the beauty of it is it follows the same principles that I've always thought were true. Simplicity. Simplicity is your happiness. So he'll say, follow your passion. Think about what your passion is and focus all of your attention on that passion. Now, while you're focusing that attention on that passion, you're in that passion, doing that passion, everything just seems to flow properly. But it's not that easy because once these negative entities see that you're going towards your passion, they're going to do everything that they can to knock you off whatever road you're on. They're going to try everything to knock you off that road that you're on. This is a very important part because you'll feel that, I keep trying to do this and I keep getting just knocked off of it over and over. But when that's your passion, you do not stop trying. Do not give up. I don't care who you are. This has nothing to do with any gender, any person, any race, anything. This is your soul screaming out, hey, this resonates with me, so I'm going to do this. And every time I get knocked off, you know what? I come back stronger. That's the message. And once you can master that, you're unstoppable. And once you can master that, not only can you master that, but many other things. And so then at a certain point, we can say, hey, there's 30% of our population that's awakened and truly doing good works, truly doing their passion. That 30% is carrying 70%. Raise our vibrations, which are tangible, quantitative items that we can measure. It's the beauty in it. I've gotten ridiculed for it before, but you know what? Fuck those guys. You can measure this. Like, how can you argue that? You can measure it. Many of you know one of my, expertises is in various aspects of IT. I can show you how data travels through fiber optic cable, which is just light. And I can tell you how much data is in each packet of this fiber optic light, depending on what type of fiber we use and what the transmission receivers are. But even then, most people would be like, no, no. Light? Like, you're just sending shit through light? Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it works. And a big part of that is we can't go beyond a certain degree of a curve because it's light. So if we bend it too much, that light's not gonna just, go through a 90-degree angle. You have to bend it up. Otherwise, it's just gonna and just discard because it can't get through. The angle is too sharp. So fiber optic cables that are underground, under the oceans, all these things, they not be bent beyond a certain of an angle, or else they'll just bounce back and discard it. Now you have lost data. So I don't know if that came through. I'm probably ranting, but see what else we can see.
It's like when people say Illuminati. Say their names.
Right.
Say the name. It was one time where Esso was on here and he said, yo, it's these many families. I wanted to jump into the screen and be like, no, Esso, it's a lot of families. I grew up in Delaware. The DuPonts run Wilmington. That's not DuPont Hospital. Is it? We know the name. Say the name. Because what it does, when you say these things, it makes a boogeyman for our children.
Right.
They can't fight the Illuminati.
Or the imaginary vase.
No, but you allow them.
So I know I said this earlier. I said in my last video, if any of you want a detailed video on what all of this is, just let me know. And one man said it. He said, show me the real information on the Illuminati. I said, I got you, bro. Right after this one. Next video will be on that. But, excuse me, you gotta understand that, certain things I cannot put on YouTube because of community guidelines, but I will lead you to it. So when we go from, and this is just off my head, right? So when we go from Adam Weishaupt, his 5 sons that were told to go to 5 financial centers of the world at that time and create the banking systems, create credit, create all of this, and then start wars, start every little thing, but profit off of both. And then, people want to link them with, Masons. There is a link there. There is, but it's not what you think. The link is very severed. Just like he said, the DuPont family. Very, but look it up. It's a powerful family. I'll do a video on it. But the DuPonts are not part of the Illuminati. They're not. And the DuPonts are very well. But see, they can't be a part of the Illuminati because of who and what they represent. So you're gonna hear me talk a lot about the Rockefellers, of course, the Rothschild, my country, from my cities. So Rothschilds, Rothschild, right? Rothschild, red shield. That's their coat of arms. My family has a coat of Rothschild, coat of arms. It's Adam Weishaupt. 5 sons sent to the 5 biggest centers of the planet and given a lot of money, controlled the banking, created the banking cartels, and were told to profit off of everything. Cause wars, profit off of both sides. They need guns, hide it, but profit off of both sides. If there's unaliving, profit off of both sides. So, yeah, there's a lot of that happens. It's going on. We'll get into it. I'm not going to get into it here. But I just want you to realize what we're going to get into. And I cannot go past a certain point, like I said. You know, I'm not going to not say it, but I'm going to say it in a way that you guys understand that I've got to stick to YouTube's guidelines. But when we start talking about the Black Pope and the Jesuits and all of these things, institutions, you know, and that are linked to these families, you know, I've got to be careful. Just understand. I don't want you all to be mad at me when I don't elaborate on something, because trust me, if I don't elaborate on something, it's because you'll get me. Just understand that. Let's get back into it.
This is African voodoo witchcraft, and that thing is called Zangbado, or the spirit of night. There's nobody inside of it. This is actually a spirit which is a guardian of the black magic community in Africa.
He is absolutely right. So there was no one in there. There was nothing in there. And actually, I have video of that, whatever it is, just floating, you know, 15, 20 feet in the air. No one in there. But that's the difference. People misnomer these things. So they'll call it witchcraft. They'll call it voodoo. It's none of those things. But it is the basis for those things. So you have a difference. You have the West and our religions, you know, Christianity, you know, Jews, Muslims, all of these things. They say you go to church to worship gods. In voodoo, they say we go to church and become gods because they're channeling. But nothing beats the oldest African styles. Nothing does. I don't care who you are. Find me a video of something. You know, Africa is the oldest of the old. It's the cradle of life and the cradle of civilization north of them. So when you're talking about these things, you know, yeah, a lot of the things that you see look very stupid. Like when you see, it's one of my videos I posted, you know, they take 2 hands full of, you know, green grass and they put it around your neck and pull you. And if it just slides through, you're not whatever they were looking for, whether it was a thief or in, say this, a grapist. That works. But if it is, then it tightens up and pulls them back. This is just, you know, this is a long, and they just take an X, put it to your throat, and it just slides through unless you're the one. But who's to say? You know, they've been doing this for thousands of years, and they go by that. But crime that they have is like, you know, thousands of percent less than what we have. So, you know, they don't have a police force. They don't and the things that we have. So they're working. This video right here, I want you all to pay close attention to, because he's hitting on something. And he's a bit askewed, but he's hitting on it, and he's only just a tad bit askew. I want you to see it because he's not that far.
What if I told you that all corporations are actually just one giant mega corporation? And I'm not talking about metaphorically. And I'm not talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about what's really behind BlackRock. See, we hit 1 million followers on TikTok this week, and I've been waiting to post this video since the very first video that I made, laying the groundwork of understanding so that we're all going to understand this now that we're here. So let's break it down real simple. If you're going to go grocery shopping at a corporate grocery store, all these corporations are owned by these institutions. They're highlighted in red if they're on all 4 of these sheets. They're darker orange if they're on 3 of them, and light orange if they're on 2. And there's only a couple that only appear once. It's mostly the same money.
I'm going to pause right here just because I want to input my thoughts. So I don't know where all of you live or if this is happening, but so where I live, we used to have all of these gas stations, right? And yeah, they were at the tippy top owned by, some big corporation like British Petroleum, which is BP, or Chevron, or whatever, right? Now, what we have is they're doing away with all of that, and everything is becoming a conglomerate. And so everything in one store is the same in the other store. Now, what does that do for the community? Nothing. Excuse me. Right? So, if you're in an area with a lot of hoods, right? Just a lot of hood folk, then you're going to have the type of stuff that applies to your demographic, which are going to be hood folks. And the vice versa is also just as true. Now, what happens when these people take over and everything just looks the same, no matter where you are? Well, you don't feel anything is being catered to you, I remember living in an area where one gas station only had 2 pumps, but their breakfast was fire as fuck. Because we had to get that breakfast, then drive miles out to do a bunch of hard labor work. And the place was packed every day and rarely gas. Yeah, somebody's always at a pump, but that's not what they were there for. There to get food, that morning food. I saw the same thing in Egypt. I would be in one of these alleys, and early in the mornings, they would have this chickpea soup that's loaded with the stuff. Every man is just getting there, and it sits on your stomach like a brick because it has to. It has to sustain you throughout the day because they don't eat again until they get home after work. So, yeah, I just want to know, does this resonate with you? Have you seen this in your area? Not been all over the US in the past, 6 months, has. So, does this resonate with you? Have you seen this? If so, let me know in the comments. I'm honestly and truly curious, but there's a reason why you don't see this. When you start taking that personal touch out and everything is just like, the exact same thing everywhere you go, what good is it? Who cares? There's no preference. Usually I'd be like, okay, so I want this, might want, these kinds of natural tortilla chips made out of corn from Mexico, so I'm gonna go here and get those. No. Now I have to go here where it's just like hot Cheetos and Takis, which I do not eat, nor do I allow my. So I posted a video the other day of my friends wanting to do the boudin Taki Cheeto crap balls, but yeah. So just let me know what you guys think.
But we go deeper. If you go for the biggest tech companies, it's basically the exact same list for all 4 of these. That would be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Geode, which is similar to Fidelity Associated, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And then Northern Trust is on 3 of them, and Capital World Investors is the exact same thing as Capital Research and Management Company. So you might think, okay, these are the institutions that own the whole stock market. But who owns them? And see, if you've been around here for a minute, you already know. They all own each other. Just a giant cross-ownership pool. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because see, way back before I'd even posted a single video, I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit. And he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks. Like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute. Because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, he did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions. And a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me, and everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it Megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's, groceries, food, ingredients.
I'm going to speak on something real quick that he does not touch on. So, yeah, he's right. Excuse me. So, it's been a long day for me. So, he's right. These corporations do all of that. But here's the thing. So, got all of these corporations and so many subsidiaries and sister companies that they make it so easy. And the crazy thing was the laws of the United States were made to support these people. It's made to support them. So what they're doing is not even remotely illegal. It's very legal. Here's the crazy part. They can control, they do control so much more. If you knew the extent that I go to feed my family, to give them good water, you know, osmosis water, quadruple distilled water that's had actual minerals put into it, jumps it up around 6.5. Because when you go buy bottled water, that's dead water. That's the worst thing you can body. Go to a gas station and buy a bottle of water, unless you're putting something in it that's got electrolytes or something, it's horrible for your body. It does nothing. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think this is, oh, spring water, Dasani, you know, all these other companies. They want you to think that it's doing something it's not. And before I came, and the only reason I'm good at this is because I grew up in complete opposition. I grew up in a country on a continent where all of the things that government allows are illegal. You cannot hand somebody a cup of dead water and says, "Hey, by the way, there's 8% lead in this, but you know, tastes good. You're thirsty. Drink it." Would you drink it? Most of you are probably saying no. But if ever take your cup without filter, just pour you some water, or go to a store and buy a bottle of bottled water, you're drinking it. So reverse osmosis, putting the nutrients back. And I'm talking about killing off the fluoride, the chlorine. These are the big things that people want to keep in because they calcify, keep you stuck. You're not able to get away from that. Then try hard. There is nothing in this world that is going to benefit you until you to decalcify it. Till we can all, y'all know we're all one, but a lot of us don't feel it. A lot of I get these messages and comments all the time. I don't feel like I'm part of the. Well, it's because the day that you were born, you've been indoctrinated. You've been having your pineal gland calcified. You've gone through all of these things that make it so hard for you to feel like part of the rest. But you are. You're beautiful. You're loved. You're needed. You're wanted. Trust me on that. We need you. We want you. We all are one. I'm not saying this in a way that's like some, excuse me, hippie shit. We truly are all one. But it says we're all one. When 100,000 of us decides to go another way, that does not align with what our source is telling us to do and to be, it affects us. So we have got to get a grip on that. Them, teach them, grab them, love them, hold them, accept them. Accept them. Because there is so much out here that you have to look out for. Your own kin, which is all of us, all kin, we're all brethren and sistren. Those should not be the ones that you have to look out for. But they want you to believe that it is. Not the enemy. We're not our enemy. It's all love. It's all one. If a million of us were to unalive tomorrow, exact same time, we would all have the exact same experiences, except for what was based in our memory. So if some of us believe one thing and others another thing, we would have a slightly different experience, but it would not be that slight. Guess what? All be up there seeing each other, looking at each other. I wish I'd been told this or known this beforehand. Acted differently. Don't let it get to that point. Please don't let it get to that point. Been there. Spoken my piece on when I was unalive. It's 2 hours. Spoken my piece on that. I've talked about it. All one. Have to understand. Don't understand that. Can't comprehend that. It's okay. Maybe it's not time for you to comprehend that. But it's true. I would never say anything that I didn't know is fact. I would never talk about anything. Yeah, I'll review little videos here and come to something serious. I'm never going to talk about something that I have not been through the trenches in. That's the difference. Talking about it, I've gone through the trenches with it. Done everything possible to either go into it and come out, either piece by piece or a whole. But either way, I've experienced it. I know many of you have too. And that's why we're connected, building this community together. All one. Adversity exists so you can thrive. If you never had to face adversity, you never had to be challenged, what would you be? Think about it. Just think about it. Never had to face adversity, never had to be challenged. What would you be? You would be, do you remember when Paris Hilton had that show and it was weird, Paris and Nikki, and they were just like, what is a Walmart? Do they build walls? That's who you would be. That's exactly who you would be. That's false. That's pretentious. It's false. Very few people are like that. But you know what's real? People struggling, striving, needing love. And I say this in all of my videos, and I know how cheesy it sounds. Love is highest frequency on another person or receive person. There is nothing powerful, pure love. And I'm not talking about in love, sexual. I'm talking, hey, I see you going through something. I don't know, but you're my brother. You're my sister. I love you. I will go through this with you because I've been there. Or maybe I haven't been there, but you know what? We'll go through it together. That's love. Love knows no race, no color, no ego, none of that. Realize what these things are, what they mean, and understand how to change them to fit your paradigm. Because we all have the same paradigm and we're all going through it. But you know what the worst thing is? It's to not go through it together. That's why we're here. That's why I made this channel. That's why I talk the way I do, and that's why I speak so honestly. That is why I speak my soul to you. That's why I comment back. I'll talk to you, discuss stuff, request things from me. Because I know, I feel it. I feel so much love, but I also feel so much confusion. And I'm not saying, I know even half of the picture. But what I'm saying is all of us together, all one. And all one, half of them, so much more powerful than a small percentage, yeah. A small percentage not knowing much. So that's where we're coming. I'm going to end this here because it's getting very personal. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, we need to make this aware to other people. Like I said, got 15 to 17% right. Carrying the other 85% of people. Now, the more we can get this out to people, better off we're going to be. And it will happen. It's going to happen. But I want us to do it. No. Fact is, it will happen. The part that we don't know is who will be the biggest contributor. I want it to be us. Because we've gone through so much. And we're here now. And we're not backing down. We're not going anywhere. We are here. This is ours. This life is yours. Take it. Deserve it. See you on the next one.